I'll buy the game and I can broadcast next week. Yeah. So you'll just do commentary by yourself now, right? And then I'll join as soon as you have a solution, if there is any. Yeah? Sounds good. I'll keep contact with James and chat via you. Okay? Perfect. Good luck, man.
Sir?
Hello everybody and welcome to Casual Racing League. We're live here at the Canadian Grand Prix. Unfortunately we had some issues around here and there, but we are hopefully back at it and right on the track action here, as we already have drivers setting up their lap times, drivers having times out on board at the moment, as we have only 4 of them with a time on board, but the rest of them catching up to the pack as well and setting up a lap time. Meanwhile, just a ghost there. He just thought to get to the end. He got to the end, got the lap time, but that was going to be invalidated. Meanwhile, Pel 11 in the Alpine gets it P1. It was a great race at the previous race at Australia, but we're here now in Canada. Unfortunately, we didn't have much time with the issues we had to get into much detail, but we are on it right out on track here at this moment. We're having drivers do their laps, complete their laps, and there are a few that are yet to do that as of the moment, some improving, some not, as F-Door now gets into P4 at the moment. Currently, it's just 18 minutes of qualifying session, and then we move on to the 50% of the Canadian Grand Prix racing. As here at this moment, anybody that is going to be yet to start a lap or is just going to be starting the lap, and it is going to be Magic Blood, who's just going to be making his way just past the final corner, the Wall of Champions, and that is going to be across that finish line. How quick is he going to be able to go? That'll be P5 for him, 1:11.9. Okay, and there we go. As we have drivers completing their laps, drivers doing the best they can. We haven't got the beginning that we should have. Unfortunately, no co-commentator as well, but we are on it. We'll try and take it as much as we can. As there we go, there's Evdor. Earlier we saw him do a lap, pushed him into P5, but now he's invalidated it, and that's not going to count at all. Anyways, that was going to be an in-lap, so that was not going to be counting indeed, but in the end that will not be doing much for his time as well. What about others or anybody, those who are yet to complete a lap time? And Xenu there, and he almost goes into the Wall of Champions. He indeed does go into the Wall of Champions there. He had a little bit of a tap on it, and that was that could have been disastrous, as he just goes into turn one, skips it all around. Probably he was going to be pitting, either trying to try and pit or just invalidate this lap and begin again for one more time. That is some interesting things around the circuit. Everybody, a lot of the drivers out on track still. Many drivers invalidating their laps. The Canadian Grand Prix, it's not really an easy circuit, especially trying to keep your lap validated. And I think that is going to be turning around, and especially in the race. Expect many people to have penalties. Expect many people to probably have many penalties and receive really a lot of them. And what about Evdor now? Is he going to be able to do that? He invalidated his previous lap. Does he improve this time around across that finish line? That is going to be P2 for him, and he's going to go to the front row, 1:09.612. That seems to be interesting. He gets himself up into the second place there. Okay, unfortunately the game audio for some reason doesn't seem to be up to a date. I cannot hear it in my in my own game as well, which unfortunately is an issue. But just getting this out here and having to have a look at all of this qualifying and the race section should be great, and I'm hope that you'll be entertained. And I'm here on your screen to try and entertain everybody with this amazing race. The drivers, these amazing drivers at the previous Australian Grand Prix, the attendance was a little bit low, but this time around it's 15 drivers, a lot more than there were at the previous race, a lot more than what we saw at Australia. So it's going to be interesting, and definitely the fun, the excitement should be even more, as Callum now already invalidated his lap. He's just coming out of turn one and he's invalidated. He's already invalid. Nothing's going to be validating for him, as we're going to try and have a look at not only the drivers but the teams standings and everything all around, a look at the previous race results as well. But for now, having a look at the driver standings after round two, after Australia, it's going to be DMAC leading the championship just ahead of zero then from Australia. Then Pel 11 with 33 points in the Alpine. Then came Cahur with 27, 22 to Magic Blood. El Dominici with 9 points. Then Kronk with 8. Iceman. Then McCurry with 6. Callum with 4. And then Silent Rogue with 2 points. With the rest of the drivers yet to score a point in the championship. Having a look at the Constructors title, it's going to be Alpine team leading the title with 76 points. Just behind them is Red Bull. Obviously, it is equal performance, so it's not going to be much of a difference, obviously, between cars and performances of the drivers. But now, at the moment, still only 11 drivers out of 15 have a lap time on board, with yet Hunter is far off. He's far off the pace and really way off his way off the field, the pace of the field. We're going to see if he's able to do better. Meanwhile, Callum, we saw him earlier invalidate laps. Not 1, 2, but many laps he invalidated. But he's back at it. How good is he going to be able to go? How good is he going to be doing or trying to do to see what he's got and what we've got to have a look at to see what he's going to show us on this lap at this moment. Just at the end of that first sector that was for Callum, and now on board with him as we're going to see him making his way. Meanwhile, we see both the Alpine drivers, I think, very close to each other out on track, and Pel 11 with an invalidated lap. Anyways, that was not an improving lap for him, but he's going to do what he can. He has been beaten by Akuhur in that Red Bull with that time of 109.488. So that's the fight is on. The fight is on. The competition is on, as we were seeing the two Alpine drivers. D-Mag, current championship leader, going to do what he can, going to try and do the best he can at this moment of time, but not quite doing so far. Okay, there you go. I was trying to get the audio, the game audio working around, but unfortunately it's just not working at this moment in time, as we're just on it with 6 minutes and 6.5 minutes now remaining in this session. It's honestly been a horrible one, but let's see what we can capture. Try and capture as much action as we can here out on track. Just 6 minutes now remain in the session. The drivers doing what they can, trying to do excellent, trying to perfect it and do the maximum that they can to show us what they are capable of doing, to show us what everybody can do around this circuit here at Canada. We almost asked all of them what they think about Canada last time around, and they were not quite happy about it. They were actually quite concerned about invalidating laps and having not too many good of them. As meanwhile, Callum comes to the end, and I think he was crossing that line. He came to the line. I wonder if he improved or not. But the lamb of 111.9 to his name. He might have not improved, or even if he did so, it wasn't a position improvement. Still stays at P9. Meanwhile, Akuhur has retired. We saw earlier, I think it was D-Mag, or in fact Pearl 11, one of those two drivers in that qualifying session in Australia, didn't even have a lap time on board, because the most reason was that one of the reasons was that he crashed. He ended up being in the wall. So I wonder if same happened with Akuhur here as well. And D-Mac is already out as well. He's one of the few drivers who don't have a lap time on board yet, and he's put it in the wall. I wonder if he's put it in the wall or something else has happened, but he is out of the session as well. Meanwhile, we're trying to go back to Callum. I think he's going to come into the pits, but he's going to go to that finish line, and he will not be improving. Slow about by 8/10 or so, with the Red Bull just coming out to the pit lane, and that's going to be going into him. Callum goes into Zero there. Zero was just coming out of the pit lane, and Callum puts his nose in, and that's going to be surely, if not some side pod damage to the Red Bull, and he's not going to be happy about it. With him being P4, still far off the top drivers, way off his teammate there. He definitely wants to be getting up to them, and that could be big damage for him. If not, even if he tries to pit and then come again, it'll be wasting a lot of time for him. I think he'll be lucky if he doesn't have any damage though at this point in time of the race. Meanwhile, the Haas driver comes across, and that is going to be Knight already on an invalidated lap. Meanwhile, Noe there, he's trying to do what he can, just 11% battery, so he's not having much as well. He's invalidated his lap as well. He might have invalidated just at the final corner, because that's when it invalidates your current lap and the next one that you're about to do as well. And I think that's going to be the case as with him, as he's retired out of the session. He just retired with out of 16 drivers. Indeed, it becomes out from 15. Meanwhile, 12 of them have a lap time. The 4 don't. And one more driver that does have a time would be Panda, as he puts it out in the top 3 there. He does what he's capable of, and he shows what he's capable of there, as he gets it on. Currently, Pearl 11 out on an out lap. I mean, with just 2.5 minutes, almost 3 minutes remaining. Just a little less than 3 minutes in this session, as we are just on for it, waiting to see what we can do, what we are here to see from all these drivers. Just in the ending minutes of the qualifying session, in the final few minutes of the qualifying session, we're going to see the 2 McLarens on their out laps, both almost just following each other out there. Maybe Magic Blood and Iceman trying to do what they can, trying to do maybe support each other with that slipstream, with that toe, a little bit of a help from one or the other for themselves as teammates. I think I see these guys sometimes working together as a team to show, and I think that we can see here, at least in this qualifying session. What about the Red Bull of Zero then? Does the damage from the Aston Martin have any effect on his time? And across that finish line, is he going to improve? Sure, he will be finding some improvements to 2.610s, which is going to see him only lining up P5, still far away from the top. Still, look at the gap. It's very, very close from P1 to P6 there. It's 109.488 from Kuhur, who's retired. Then it's Pearl 11 with 0.520, 0.595 Panda, and 612, 109.612 would be F-Door, and then 0.662. This is really close. This is excitement. Surely it's going to get around in the race, and if you're not going to get it in the qualifying session, it should be absolutely amazing in the race as well. Ooh, the qualifying's not over yet. Still a minute to go, and drivers doing their best. Drivers getting to that finish line, those finish lines now, and trying to do their best they can. Meanwhile, Iceman does put a lap time on board, but just sees him get ahead and finish ahead of Hunter on this timing sheet, who have a lap time. With the 2 of them don't have a lap time. Didn't have a lap time. Noi and DMAG retired out of the session already. Meanwhile, Callum has retired as well. So has Kahur. We'll see what everybody around can do. What about Iceman? What about Hunter then? Is he going to be improving? He would not be. He comes into the pit straight away. Surely he wouldn't have been improving, and probably did not have the fuel to go one more time as well. So the drivers would be coming into the pits, and now Magic Blood has invalidated his lap anyways. He wasn't going to be improving. But what about Zero then? He try and go at it one more time, and Pearl 11 meanwhile going to be taking pole position. His teammate D-Mag out of the session. Pearl 11 going to put it on pole with a time of 109.09074. He goes quickest and the fastest of all, unless someone could deny him. Only those who could deny him are... Zero cannot do that. He's invalidated his lap. What about anyone we are looking at behind? It's going to be Ghost. Ghost, we think he could do that, but he's only improving by a little bit margin, and that is not going to be enough for pole position. And everybody else around the circuit has taken the checkered flag, or it's Zero who's invalidated, and then it's Pearl 11 himself who's put it on a pole, and really beginning very left in the previous round. The performance and the consistency that he needed, and that he should have kept. For his championship, for his driver's championship, and that is going to be it for the qualifying session now. some great racing. It was some struggles at the start, but at least we're progressing through. We're going through, and I think we will be on it as we're just on it in this qualifying session. Everybody now out of done it, and they've done it what they could. They've done what they had in themselves, especially Pel 11 has put it on pole and went quickest out of them all, 109.074. What a great lap from him. Finishes about just a little bit more than 4/10 ahead of Kuhor, who retired in the end. Probably if he had, if he went again, he could have tried to do it. He could have tried to get it around, but I think that's going to be it for him. And I think maybe if we're looking at with the drivers retiring out of the session, something might have happened there, and I think there will be a little bit of a break before we start for the Grand Prix, and we'll see how it goes around and pick up everything around when we just get into the race. And there we go, there was no formation lap. Straight away we are onto it, and that is going to be it. It's a huge wet race as we went 5 red lights and into the race we go. And that is already a virtual safety car into turn one. These guys go. That is was not a good start at all. That was a horrendous start for everybody around, and especially the pole sitter, Pel 11 there, as he goes wide there onto the grass and coming back out on the circuit, just like almost like Sebastian Vettel there back in 2019. And that is going to be a virtual safety car straight away. Virtual safety car right as we get into the race. And already a penalty to Pel 11. I think that might have been of jumping the start. Meanwhile, Kuhur, the driver that starting on the front row, is keeping it at the top of the time and chase. And they're all going really, really slow, with obviously the virtual safety car and the virtual safety car, which is going to be making them go slow, making them go very slow. But starting on these full wet tires, does Panda go for it on the inside? We thought almost he went for it, but he didn't quite went for it, because it was going to be hard for him to make the move. But obviously he wasn't going to be allowed to even make any moves. There it's a very, very vet race, and that's going to be all. That is going to be green flags now. We're going to see down the inside line there, Evdor is going to go for it. Who's going to be going into the final corner, into the wall of champions there, trying to keep it tricky. Meanwhile, Pel 11 heads into the pits straight away out into the pits, and did what he could. And the virtual safety car, is it a new one, or there is one already? And I think a Haas is out of the race. Both Haas's are out of the race already. Something might have happened, and definitely one of that is that both Haas drivers are out, and they might have put it in the wall or just crashed out there, because as soon as the virtual safety car ended, it happened to be coming back out once again. I think that is now drivers receiving penalties after penalties again and again. Every single one of them starting on those on those full wet compound tires. Having a look at these penalties, it's drive through for Pel 11, so he cannot even pit. Probably he'll have to come for that drive-through penalty once again, probably one more time. I think then everybody around him, Hunter with the 10-second time penalty, goes with with the 20-second time penalty. Then it's D-Mac and El Dominici both with 10-second time penalties. That is not the start they would have wanted. I think with this wet race, all wet, the circuit completely soaked in rainwater. It gets hard, it gets tricky to drive on, it gets tricky to track everything around on it. I think we are seeing that. Meanwhile, is there an overtake? These guys are trying their best to keep each other off, trying to each other out on track, trying to keep each other out there, as we're now going to be on it only on lap 2 out of 25 there. And I think there we go, it is still virtual. Okay, in fact it's not a virtual safety car, apologies from my end, it's the full safety car, because on the graphic it says virtual safety car. I thought it's going to be a virtual safety car, but it is a full course safety car, and it is going to be the car. You got to follow the safety car and do what you can and watch it and go around it in the safety car right behind it. Meanwhile, the Cahur currently holds the lead. I mean, he got off the line very well, seems to keep the lead, seems to keep have gotten the start better. So did Panda, Evdor, Magic Blood currently in P4. Usually the McLaren drivers not too good, but in the rain has favoured the drivers that we don't usually see in the dry conditions at the top as well. And I think it's really going to be interesting with 2 Haas drivers already out though, but still 14 cars out on track, and all 14 of them are going to do wonders and really entertain us all with an amazing and exciting race ahead of us, as we're just having a look at everybody around. Meanwhile, Akahor leading, as I said, Panda in second place, Evdor in third, Magic Blood fourth, Zero in P5, could not improve in his final run, invalidated it, and obviously wasn't going to be improving as well. And then Fabio currently P6, Iceman P7, Hunter P8, Zeno P9, and Callum completing the top 10. Then comes Ghost, and then P11, El Dominici, and D-Mag. Really doing what they can, and we'll see what everybody around is going to be seeing. And I think virtual and then safety car, we're not seeing any indication on it. Is it going to continue? Is it going to come into the pits? I think it might just continue, and yes, so it's going to be continuing on, and that is going to be lap 4, and lap 4 it's going to get into, so it's going to be a lap 5 restart, which we're going to see. We're seeing drivers, drivers coming into the pits, drivers doing what they can, and we're going to see these drivers come into the pits doing what they can to try and get the better tires, trying to get better traction. Is there going to be damage repairs? Yes, it is going to be damage repairs for the Kicksauber driver, really, to try and pay his penalty, as well as change the front wing as well. Meanwhile, the safety car goes on. Currently now just lap 4. And now still waiting, I think, with the safety car, with everything all around. I think we'll see what goes on, but still not much action though. We're waiting for it. We're waiting to get action on. We're waiting to get things started and see some racing action, see some great action with what we can. So at the moment, P4 is the safety car is now just going to be coming into the pits. That is now going to be interesting. Meanwhile, the safety car is they're going to do what they can. They're going to get things along. There you go. That's going to be interesting. Meanwhile, we have all these drivers now starting, now beginning what they can. Wow, how good of a restart is Akor going to be able to do? How good is he going to be trying and getting the beginning of the races all along? How will it be, as we're just going to be seeing these drivers along, both the Red Bull drivers currently inside that top 5. It's It's going to be interesting. Meanwhile, the McLaren drivers in P4 and 5 as well for Magic Blood and Iceman as they back of the grid. Position switching, positions already sweeping. And there is going to be the Alpine of D-Mag. And I think he was right behind the Kicksauber. And D-Mag gets another penalty there. It just went into the back of him before it was even green flags there. We saw cars moving. We saw overtakes being done. Meanwhile, F-Door is going to go for it around the outside. Is he going to make the move stick? He's going to see what he can do just in this rain-soaked condition. It's really hard to keep the car out on track, and it's really tricky for all of these drivers to do the best they can. And I think D-Mag's already out. He might have retired just in the pit. We're only on lap 5, and it's really it's actually very, very tricky there. It's so tricky for all these drivers to even keep the car out on track. A lot of them weren't happy about it back in Australia, about Canada, and I think rain has even made it worse for everybody around, because all of these drivers now, 13 remain out of the 16 starting, and we'll see what we can do. Really close all around, very good battles that we should be able to see, and we should be seeing very, very soon. All along we're going to see down the inside, Callum's gonna go for it. Down the inside of Iceman. The Irishman's gonna try and come back at him. He's gonna try and come back around the outside. He's not gonna be making the move stick though. Surely Callum would be doing so. Iceman couldn't come back at him. He tried, but he would not be successful with it. And I think it's a great move from Callum as he moves into P7, and another position gained for the Aston Martin driver there. He's doing his all. Meanwhile, Akor gets the fastest lap and shows everybody around here to how to drive around Canada. Meanwhile, his rear end almost stepped out there, and that could have been horrible had that ended up hitting in the wall. Had he ended up hitting the wall, that would have not been too good for him, as Pablo gets a 3-second time penalty as well. A lot of the penalties, I mean, even in qualifying we see drivers invalidating their laps, invalidating and ruining their laps, but this time around in the race it's even more harder. They're going so slow, like they're going very, very slow at it. I think they just cannot with these full wet tires, and that is going to be a lockup from Panda there, and that is why these guys are not trying to go any faster than what they are going. Even while braking, they could misjudge it, and that is going to be them making the mistakes, making the errors that they would be expected to do so in the rain. And I think if you are really just even finishing this race with how tricky the conditions are, you should be applauded, and you will be applauded. But as it's going to be going from lap 6 on to 7 now. Meanwhile, Panda gets the fastest lap. With that mistake, that error, he still gets that fastest lap. He still gets that quickest time of them all. He's going to do what he can. Meanwhile, Magic Blood goes around the outside of the Kicksauber. Meanwhile, goes on the inside line. He's going to take it, and he's going to make the move once again. And I think it's interesting. Magic Blood goes very, very wide, and that might allow Callum in the Aston Martin to try and come on the inside of him. But there's not going to be much space. There is not going to be much. Ooh, that is very close. As he hits the wall there, does Goss the Kicksauber, and I think he might have another front wing damage. We saw one of the Kicksaubers pit earlier, but I think it might have been his teammate Zeno who tried and pit for the front wing. But I think he's going to be even more damage for him for Goss now. He hit the wall on the exit there. It's really tricky and really getting hard for everyone around, as we saw drivers hitting the walls, drivers making contacts. Meanwhile, the Aston Martin's going to go very wide, and a chance for D-Mac to be back would be on. Okay, earlier I thought D-Mac retired, but it was Pel 11 who retired in the end, the other Alpine, as Panda is pushing up, pulling Kukis laps, the fastest laps. I mean, even if he's behind Akor, not with that free air. Meanwhile, is he going to be a door opening for Panda there? Akor went very wide, but thought for a moment did Panda, but that was going to be very close. That was going to be a very tight between those two if they went wheel to wheel and so side by side. It could end up horribly wrong. Ooh, again, he doesn't quite go for it. He thinks for it, but then just backs out in time. Just backs out before it was going to be way too late for any of them to make contact and get out of the race. Yes. We've seen this race go on. We've seen this race around now. 12 drivers. Callum out of the race as well. It's becoming from worst to horrible for everybody driving around. At the moment, we see this race go around. We see all of these drivers fighting what they can really close. 11 drivers out of them all. For some reason, the game restarted on its own. I was seeing the drivers, the race starting once again around the outside. Panda's going to go for it. Is he going to make the move? They're really close. They're very, very close to each other out there. And we'll see what they're going to be trying to do around the outside. Mate, wheel to wheel. Panda might have his go at a go at him. And that is going to be all the drivers now on those intermediate tires. Everybody has pitted in the time that the game disappeared for us. As it's back on, EA has been having its fair share of issues. And I think it's, once again, just the game is not how it should be. Bugs in its own. And I think currently at the moment, P11, lap 11 and 11 drivers out there. Meanwhile, Panda takes the lead of the race and the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix. After showing promise, after posting fastest laps, after posting laps and fastest laps, many great performances after that, and he's taken the lead. Meanwhile, Akur is really struggling there to try and even keep Fdour right behind. He's having a go at him. He's going to try and make the move, and surely is he going to come back at him? Is Akur going to brake late on the around the outside? He won't have to, so he'll have to bail out because there was some great defending by Fdour. And now right behind would be Pablo as well. He might have a go at the Red Bull as well. Akur now goes from leading the Grand Prix into 4th place right at lap 11, lap 12 at the end of lap 11. But now he's going to be wheel to wheel. He's going to be scraping it out there. Well, let's see what's going on as now on lap 12 out of 25 at the moment. Everybody starting on those intermediate tires at this time. It randomly changed. I'm not sure what really happened, to be honest, with 11 drivers currently running out of the 16 that had begun the race, instead started it. You're going to see these drivers battle it out, going around the circuit. Lap 13 out of 25. Not sure what's going around, but with the Red Bulls, both the Red Bulls didn't got the start, didn't got the beginning here in Canada that they did back in Australia. They were almost dominant back in Australia, but they haven't got the welcome in Canada they would have wished for, that's for sure. And the others around fighting as well. The gap that is closed is these guys now, Xenu and Iceman. They're doing their best, they're doing their bit, and we'll see what they can be doing. We're on it now with lap 13, and there we go. That was going to be one of the drivers going very, very wide, and that is going to be Xenu ahead of Iceman there. These two are doing it. These two are scraping all around. As a scraping, as D-Mag now doing all he can, trying to get things. Okay, so we've been told that was a red flag while it had disappeared. The game did. So it was a red flag. It restarted once again. It didn't show us much for us. It randomly simply disappeared for a moment and then came back. So that is what happened there. So might have been crashes, might have been excellence. So this is now we have to see. So everybody around then changed on those intermediate tires after the red flag. So that is what exactly happened. And after that, the Red Bulls haven't got the start. I mean, Zero started in about outside that top 4 and coming around, currently running in P4, it's fine. But Akohor starting on that pole in first position after the restart. Meanwhile, Panda has done it. He is now 3.1 seconds ahead of Evdor there. That is interesting to see for these guys as he gets a penalty. Panda does as well, but then Evdor does have a penalty as well. So if you're looking at, he's 13 seconds of time penalties for Evdor there. That is interesting to see, because that's not going to be much for him. That's going to be a lot for him, in fact, and it's not going to do much at all for Panda to really lose the race, or Panda to really it won't really be affecting his race or really give him any pressure that he's going to be losing it. He's got 3 seconds, but the driver behind has got 13. He's got 13 seconds as these guys are scraping it all race long. D-Mag and Pablo there. D-Mag and Pablo doing their bit there here in the race, trying to get into that top 5, doing what they can. Is D-Mag going to go down the inside line? We already see many drivers make mistakes, many drivers have issues and really end their own race, which we have seen with the remaining 5, those who are out. We begun with 16 and currently 11 drivers at this moment. Lap 15 out of 25. Oh, that is going to be D-Mag into the wall. Lucky enough, he didn't ended his race and ended in the wall. That was on the exit. He just probably would have lost it on the rear end. Wheel spins and he went into the wall. And that was close. That was almost him. A race ending for him. Meanwhile, we are here at the top. Lap 16 out of 25. currently running with 4.5 seconds gap. Now F-Door, as Panda's going to be making a mistake. Definitely those 4.5 seconds is going to be useful this time around, as he randomly just going around the track made a mistake. Definitely was no random. The track might be still wet. All these intermediate tires, not having them in the grip you would have expected, or the confidence that you need. And it's not easy at all. We've seen this wet race. We've seen this horrendous race shaping around here at Canada. It's interesting to see what's going to be happening. The gap now comes down to 1.3 seconds, 1.4 seconds. Sure, there's penalties, but he's not going to hold behind. He's not going to hold back, or even think for a moment that he's going to let him really do what was going to be happening. And I think we'll see what we are going to get along 1.2 seconds. Definitely it doesn't matter if he has penalties. He's going to try and catch him. He's going to try and attack him, really do what he can, try and do the best out there. Meanwhile, F-Door gets the fastest lap as well. He's just coming up to life then, but I feel like it's almost like the situation where it is raining, but the track is not wet. It's completely dry. It might not be completely dry here on these intermediate tires, but we'll see. It is now going to be lap 17 out of 25 there as we are on it. Ooh, that was really close there. Just on the exit for Panda. Just on the exit. I mean, he's feeling the pressure. He's feeling the pressure by F-Door there. And I think he's not... Ooh, that was really close. Once again, it's really tricky conditions for everybody around the circuit. Meanwhile, these two Red Bull drivers and the two teammates are really at it and at each other there. The closest battle now would be P1, P2 to P3, 3 and 4. It'll be interesting. The two teammates and Panda and F-Door there within 1 second. Obviously, there is no DRS in these rainy conditions, so it doesn't affect much though. But sure, it does affect. Meanwhile, the two drivers that weren't even close enough after D-Mac's mistake, he does it. He almost does it once again. Recreates the same moment there with the rear end just sliding out a little bit as they're going to go into the final corner and into the Wall of Champions. But is Pablo going to be able to defend? He would just be able to do that before they get into the corner. He's able to get his car up to that racing line and complete it and do what he needed to do there to try and defend his 5th place as we move on to lap 18 now. We're rapidly getting towards the end of the race with those red flags and things happening all around. As we're not doing what, and there you go. We already see Iceman come into the pits. Not sure for how many or how many times. And is he on those? Is he on slick tires? Yes, he is. So definitely those mistakes that we saw from these drivers. Maybe the track getting wet, the track getting drier, the track drying up, no water on track. I mean, he's. It's only 11 drivers in the session, and it's been a lot more disastrous racing by everyone all around. So might try and have a go at it, and he's currently in 9th place. Going to try and do what he can on those hard tires. I mean, still it's raining and they are really close to the Wall of Champions. Did F-Door, but is he going to be, how good is he going to be able to do? 1.1 seconds. I mean, Panda, sure, he made a few mistakes here and there, but he's again back at it and keeping that gap above 1 second, which was a little less at the end of previous lap. What about these two? They are having their battle of their own, Pablo and D-Mag. So it's one Alpine out, and the two RBs and an LP. Williams, RB, Alpine, RB in a battle of their own, having their own racing, having some great excitement. Meanwhile, the two teammates are not really looking to attack each other or really try and put each other into pressure. I think they're really close to each other. Maybe we'll need to see to try and follow up with them. And then there is a yellow flag there, which could be, we're seeing a car going very, very, very slow, and it could be Hunter, the driver who's in the last place right now. About 29 seconds behind of the driver ahead. He's being lapped by almost all around the circuit, but that is interesting now. Meanwhile, this battle between Iceman, Xenu, and Magic Blood is far away, but Iceman and Xenu are very close to each other. Oh, they are not close, in fact. They are close, but it is Magic Blood and Xenu very, very close to each other, as we're going to see these guys now have a go at him. D-Mac far, far away from him. It's not going to be close enough for D-Mag. It's not happening how it is. how it should be at the moment. Ooh, that is really close there. Lap 20 out of 25 on the exit there. Just losing that rear end. Almost losing that, and he could have ended up in the wall. That could have been worse, way worse for him. Meanwhile, the two teammates are now very closer to each other there. Just a little slide of Akur there. He was trying to win it. He was trying to be the best driver of them all. Meanwhile, a Zero there, just in P4 right behind him. He's going to wait for his teammate to make a mistake. He's going to wait for his teammate to make errors. As D-Mac there, as both of the drivers have there, they're going full commitment there. That Pablo and D-Mac, both of them almost running each other out. We're seeing these guys make mistakes. We're seeing these guys have issues or trying way too hard. I mean, surely they're doing what they're best, what they think is going to be the best. Obviously, these drivers have experience and hours driving out on the circuit. Meanwhile, there's another yellow flag. And we'll see how it's going to be. I think it might have been Hunter once again. He was going to be going, and there we go. Okay, that is Panda lapping the McLaren driver. I thought there was some move coming up, but that was Panda lapping. Lapping one of the McLaren drivers there as El Dominici gets a 3-second time penalty. Not going to be too good for him as we'll be on it. Lap 21 out of 25. I think it's been a weird kind of a race where one moment of the race we've had actions, one moment of the race we haven't had much. It's been quiet and some drivers going around and mistakes as there we go. We see one driver that was on those hard compound tires still going around, and he's just close up. He's very close up to the cars ahead, or no, he's not close up. In fact, he is close up, but he's in close up to the cars that are ahead of him. He's opted for those hard compound tires, which I don't think would really be the thing for this situation, and that is showing up. Meanwhile, Pablo gets a penalty, and a lot of the drivers with so many penalties all around. Meanwhile, the two teammates are looking at it as Akur is going to go for it around the outside of out of Zero. There's Zero there gets ahead. He's able to get ahead, and he gets very cool. Meanwhile, we saw one of the cars here. I think it was D-Mac or Pablo, one of these two, almost hitting the wall there, which was close. Or it would have been F-Door as we're just quickly following around. Unfortunately, I don't have the game audio on, which is the reason it's having myself having difficulty to navigate all around as well. But we're on lap 22 out of 25. And that's what's going to be happening now. Still a long way, not a long way though, but we'll see who's going to come out on top. Who's going to do the best that they think they are. I think this battle, D-Mag and Pablo, all around the battle, all around the circuit, all around the race, they've been having it all after, especially after the restart. It's been interesting to see. Lap 22 out of 25. There we go. That is going to be... Ooh, that was really close there. Pablo currently with a battery of just 10 to 15%. Meanwhile, there goes D-Mag. He's got over 50% of the battery. He's got 50% more than pretty much what Pablo has, and that shows up. That definitely going to be showing up. But Pablo is looking to get ahead of him, trying to overtake him. But that's not going to be happening. That is far away for that to happen though, because Pablo he hasn't got much battery, and D-Mag has. But I think he wouldn't even need much overtaking or anything to try and defend. He would just need it on normal. That would be me on medium there, because he knows that he's far away. He's not going to go for that, and he's got him covered. He's got him. Ooh, that is a yellow flag there. Meanwhile, these guys fight it out. We try and go to find that yellow flag, and that would be F-Door there as the Red Bull of Zero just gets closer to them, and now so does Akur as well. He doesn't overtake him for time being, but Zero does overtake him and moves himself into P2 there. We're going to see the penalties, the details, and that's Ooh, that is 16 seconds of penalties to Evdor we saw earlier, and 13 seconds to D-Mag, 15 seconds to Pablo, and then 6 seconds to Iceman, El Dominici 12, and 6 seconds to Hunter as well. That is many penalties to drivers, but I think the penalty to Panda is not going to be effective because that's going to be him. And as Pablo gets ahead, he moves up the position, meanwhile trying to fight with D-Mag there, as we saw these guys right behind, which is going to be Iceman and El Dominici doing what they can. I think definitely an overtake from El Dominici, I think it would be. We saw one of those cars fighting and getting ahead. Meanwhile, this battle has been going on all race long. It's been just back and forth between the two, back and forth. But sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. We're already on lap 24 out of 25. And we're going to see how it's going to be going around all along. Having a look at this with all of these drivers now just coming towards the end of the session, coming towards the very end of the session now. As Zeno now gets a penalty as well. Almost everyone has a penalty except for the three drivers in fact, running in this session, which is Magic Blood, Akur and Zero. The two Red Bull drivers still not having penalties. Back in Australia, one of them had a lot of penalties and ended up losing on that race win, which could have been theirs, but definitely mistakes came as well to were in that race. As a Cahor now has a golden opportunity to try and overtake Pablo. Evdor, is he going to go for it? But he's far away to try and make an overtake, so it's very much big gap between the two there, as this is going to be still one more time as final lap of the race begins. 7.8 seconds a race later. Panda 03, he's going to do his all. He's going to try and do what he can, and I think he has done what he had to do. Especially he was challenging and he almost could have ended his race there. This is what happens on a wet track, and especially on a track when it's dry and you're on those intermediate tires. Only Iceman is the one on those hard compound tires, and it's all showing up there just on the exit, completely overheating these intermediate tires. And Panda, it's showing up there really. That could have been horrific from race victory to being in the wall. I think, as I was just talking about, he was knocking on the door of a Cahor since the start of the Grand Prix, but especially after the restart, he's done it his all. He hasn't looked back at all, and that was going to be interesting. And surely it's showing all around. Meanwhile, we're going to see what is going to be happening, as it is going to be now. Panda 03 making his way past the wall of champions, and at the end of it, from lap 1 to 25, it was chaotic, it was weirdness all around, but Panda's going to come home to take victory and finish first here in Canada. And then it's going to be Zero in the Red Bull, and alongside his teammate Cahor P3, a double Red Bull podium. Meanwhile, Evdor and Pablo finishing P4 and 5, but the drivers yet to finish have penalties as well, but we'll see how that gets around as D-Mag gets ahead of Pablo there, mate. Not sure, and in fact he has got ahead of him, because not sure what happened. Pablo disqualified. He has been disqualified out of the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, everybody around taking that checkered flag, and we're going to see what is going to be happening. Meanwhile, Iceman just finishes ahead of El Dominici, and these two, Magic Blatt and Zeno. Magic Blatt, the only driver that pretty much didn't have the penalty, apart from the Red Bull drivers, but the Red Bull drivers did not have the penalty, and they're going to finish really close. Well, Magic Blood and Zeno there, and that is going to call time to the Canadian Grand Prix. It was a mixed reactions race, but it comes to an end, and it comes to the end of the lap now. It was all around nice qualifying and nice racing as well. Meanwhile, good performance all around. I mean, at the start, as we said, if you end up finishing it, it would be good for you, because this race, the races like this, especially earlier, it was so wet on that full wet compound tire. In the end, it was completely dry, bone dry, and all these drivers on those intermediate tires would be very hard to keep out on track. And those are your podium finishes there. Panda on top, alongside the Red Bulls of Zero and Cahor. The double podium once again for the Red Bull duo. They are really doing a fantastic job as a team and as drivers, as well as Evdor bagged the fastest lap. Meanwhile, his teammate Pablo disqualified after I'm not sure what happened, but in the end, many drivers with many penalties to their names as well. We'll see if there is drivers' interviews. Otherwise, that'll be it for a great Canadian Grand Prix. Hope to serve you next week once again with better arrangements and better issue fixings as well. Just a minute and we'll see what we're going to be doing with everybody waiting for their interviews and answer to our questions as well. And there we go. Unfortunately, because of some technical difficulties, we would not be having interviews with the drivers. But I'm sure after a chaotic race, they would need to review it around and have a look at this great race as well. But catch you next time around to round 4, the exact same time. That should be an exciting and absolutely amazing one. So make sure to turn your notifications on and turn back to JP Broadcasting back on this next Saturday once again. I'm Zabi and I'm out.